When God is up to something, it rarely begins with fireworks. It doesn't always come with announcements or applause. It starts in obscurity, in silence, in the background where no one is watching. God moves in mystery. He does his best work behind the curtain before the stage is ever set. And while we're pacing the floor asking, God, where are you? He's already positioning the miracle. He's already writing the script. He's already moving pieces you can't see, calling names you don't know, opening doors you haven't even knocked on, and softening hearts you've never encountered. Just because you can't trace his hand doesn't mean he isn't working his plan. God is strategic. He is the master architect. While we cry over what's not moving, he's digging the foundation deeper so it can hold more weight. He's not just interested in blessing you for a moment. He's preparing you for a lifetime. And when God is up to something, he doesn't need to advertise it. He conceals what he's constructing. He builds in silence because premature exposure can destroy what hasn't matured. Some things have to be hidden before they can be revealed. Some blessings have to grow in the dark before they can shine in the light. Look at how he moved in the lives of those in Scripture. Joseph didn't know that the pit was connected to the palace. Ruth didn't realize that gleaning in the field was the path to becoming the owner's wife. David didn't expect that delivering lunch to his brothers would be the beginning of slaying giants and walking into kingship. None of them saw it coming, but God was already working it out. Behind every delay, every detour, every disappointment, God was arranging divine appointments. What felt like rejection was redirection. What looked like loss was actually gain in disguise, and what the enemy meant for evil, God was already turning for good. Sometimes you think you're stuck, but you're really being staged. He's setting the scene so when the curtain rises, you don't just enter the moment, you own it. Because if he gave it to you too soon, you wouldn't be ready to carry it, you'd sabotage it. So God hides the process to protect the promise. He doesn't reveal the blueprint all at once, because faith isn't built in full clarity, it's built in trust. He's calling you to believe when nothing makes sense, to obey when the door hasn't opened yet, to sow when there's no harvest in sight, and to worship even while you're waiting. God works in layers. While you're praying for the outcome, he's already gone before you into next month, next year, the next season. He's already orchestrating the connections, aligning the resources, arranging the encounters. You're only seeing the surface, but God is working in depth. And when he finally reveals what he was up to, you'll realize why it had to take time. You'll understand why the door didn't open earlier. You'll see why certain people had to walk away, why the promotion was delayed, why the relationship ended, and why you had to cry yourself to sleep some nights. Because every tear was watering the ground for your next season. Don't let the silence fool you. Heaven is not ignoring you. Just because the room is quiet doesn't mean the work has stopped. God doesn't have to make noise to make progress. He doesn't have to post updates to show he's moving. Sometimes he allows the silence to stretch your faith, to break your dependence on feelings, and to grow your discernment. He's training you to walk by what he said, not by what you see. So if you're in a season where nothing seems to be happening, where your prayers feel unanswered, your dreams feel deferred, and your strength is wearing thin, don't be discouraged. It might just mean God is up to something so big, so significant, that he's got to prepare everything behind the scenes before you step into it. It's not the end, it's the setup. He's not punishing you, he's positioning you. You're not being forgotten, you're being favored in silence. And when that curtain finally opens, when the door swings wide, when the connection clicks, and the promise unfolds, you'll realize that God never stopped moving. He was just moving where you couldn't see him. So hold on, stay faithful, keep praying, keep serving, keep trusting, because when God is up to something, he doesn't just answer your prayer, he exceeds it. He doesn't just show up, he shows out, and what he's preparing in private will soon be revealed in power. When God is up to something, He doesn't always send a warning. Sometimes it feels like life erupts without reason, relationships crumble, jobs fall through, health is shaken, betrayal shows up in places you thought were safe. But disruption is not always destruction. Often it's divine construction. It's the sign that heaven is remodeling the foundation of your life to carry something greater. Disruption is the delivery room of destiny. You cry because it hurts. You question because it doesn't make sense. But the pain you're feeling is not punishment, it's labor. Something is being birthed through what you're breaking under. We don't like chaos. We crave control. But if you study the pattern of God, He often uses chaos to introduce calling. When the waters stirred, He walked on them. When the storm raged, He spoke peace into it. When the earth was void and formless, He said, "Let there be," and turned confusion into creation. Don't be afraid when your life is shaking. Heaven may be speaking. Don't misinterpret your discomfort. The shaking might be the sound of chains breaking. The closed door might be the sign that God has upgraded your access. In that betrayal, it wasn't your downfall. It was your launch pad. Because you can't rise holding on to what you were never meant to keep. It hurts when people you love turn their back on you. It wounds you when those you trusted lie on you, leave you, or label you with things that don't match your destiny. But hear this: disruption removes what can't go with you into your next. It cuts away leeches. It reveals motives. It exposes hearts. And though it's painful, it's necessary. Because there are some elevations you can't reach, weighed down by what doesn't serve your purpose. So God allows the shaking, not to break you, but to build you, not to bury you, but to birth something deeper in you. He is taking you through a divine disruption, not to destroy you, but to deliver you from what would have distracted you. Sometimes God lets everything fall apart so you'll stop depending on everything but Him. He lets the bottom drop out to show you what your faith is built on. And when everything you counted on crumbles, when the job disappears, when friends fade, when your strength is gone, that's when you discover He is still there, still holding, still faithful, still present. You might not recognize the process, but trust the one orchestrating it. The confusion you feel is not the end. It's just the construction zone between who you were and who you are becoming. God is upgrading your spirit. He's stretching your perspective. He's enlarging your territory and that disruption. It's the sound of your destiny waking up. And don't mistake the timing. He knows when to bring you out. He knows how to close one chapter and begin another. What looks like a closed door is often divine preservation. What felt like rejection is really redirection. The breakup didn't break you, it freed you. The betrayal didn't kill you, it crowned you. The letdown didn't finish you, it matured you. God knew what it would take to push you into purpose. And when you didn't move, He stirred the nest, because some of us will sit in the comfort of good and never reach for great. So disruption comes not to punish, but to propel. But don't let the delay deceive you either. Delay is not denial. It's divine development. Waiting is not wasting when God is in the process. He doesn't just bless what you prayed for. He prepares you to sustain it. He knows you want the promise, but He also knows what it takes to carry it. So He slows things down, not because you're not called, but because you're still being conditioned. He's refining your attitude, stretching your patience, deepening your trust, molding your character. Because if He gave you the blessing too early, you'd mishandle it, you'd ruin it, you'd idolize it. You'd mistake the gift for the giver. So He holds it back not to hurt you, but to help you. When nothing is happening on the outside, God is doing something on the inside. He's not ignoring you. He's preparing you. And though you feel stuck, you're really being strengthened. You're not being overlooked. You're being overshadowed, hidden in the cocoon of development. And when the time is right, when the pressure has done its work, when the roots are deep enough, when your identity is no longer tied to what people think, then He releases it. Because what's born after a waiting season is always stronger, always wiser, always rooted in something deeper than ego or ambition. Waiting teaches you to depend on God's voice, not your own vision. You learn to move by faith, not by sight. You stop measuring God by calendars and clocks and start trusting His character. And when the door finally opens, when the breakthrough arrives, when the relationship is restored, when the healing shows up, when the promotion comes, it won't feel random. It will feel right. It will make sense why it took so long, because every silent season was full of God's fingerprints. Every quiet day was a seed planted. Every tear you cried was watering the promise, so hold on through the delay. Stand still through the disruption. God is up to something. And when He moves, it won't just be to bless you. It will be to transform you. Delay is one of the most misunderstood tools in the hands of God. When things don't happen on our timetable, we often interpret it as denial. We pray and fast, we believe and wait, and still nothing seems to move. Doors remain closed. Answers seem far off. People around us seem to leap forward while we're stuck in neutral. But what if I told you that the silence is not absence? That the stillness is not a void, but a strategy? Because delay is not God ignoring you, it's Him preparing you. It's not punishment, it's a process. When God is up to something, He takes His time because what He's building in you requires a foundation that can carry the weight of the blessing. God doesn't just prepare the blessing for you. He prepares you for the blessing, and sometimes the wait is not about the thing you're asking for. It's about who you're becoming while you wait. That season of delay is designed to stretch your capacity, to remove impatience, to develop discernment. To teach you that faith isn't about controlling the outcome, it's about trusting the one who holds the outcome. And while you're staring at the closed door, wondering why it hasn't opened, God is behind the scenes, strengthening your roots. Because if you don't have depth, you'll collapse under the very thing you begged for. Think of how He dealt with David. Anointed as king, but sent back to the field, called to reign, but assigned to serve, given a promise, but wrapped in years of waiting. Why? Because David needed to learn how to fight lions before he faced Goliath. He needed to lead sheep before he could lead nations. God was preparing him not just for a moment on the throne, but for a legacy that would last generations. And if David had rushed the process, he would have forfeited the preparation. The same is true for you. You may feel overlooked, forgotten. You've sown seeds in prayer, in faith, in obedience, and you're wondering when the harvest is coming. Let me tell you, the harvest is never rushed. God is not just growing the fruit. He's maturing the soil. He's teaching you how to steward peace when everything around you is uncertain. He's showing you how to trust Him when He seems quiet. He's training your ears to hear His voice in the silence, not just in the shout. Because when the blessing finally shows up, He doesn't want it to define your faith. He wants your faith to sustain the blessing. And here's the truth many of us don't like. Some of us aren't waiting on God. He's waiting on us to let go of bitterness, waiting on us to stop performing and start surrendering, waiting on us to break our addiction to people's approval. God is too wise to give you something that will destroy you. So He withholds it until what's in you is strong enough to carry what's coming for you. Delay is not an empty hallway. It's a classroom, and the quicker you stop resisting the lesson, the quicker you move toward the promise. Look at Moses, called to deliver a nation, but first exiled to the wilderness for 40 years. That wasn't time wasted. That was God detoxing him from Egypt before He used him to lead others out of it. Some of us want God to use us publicly, but we resist when He develops us privately. You can't skip the process and keep the promise, because God is not interested in short-term success. He's invested in long-term faithfulness. So, what do you do while you wait? You don't fold, you don't retreat, you don't complain your way through the delay. You prepare, You sharpen your gift. You dig deeper into His Word. You fast not for things, but for clarity. You develop the kind of prayer life that isn't just about asking, but about abiding, because the waiting season isn't passive, it's active. It's not a break from destiny, it's part of the design of it, and when the moment comes, when the delay lifts and the door opens, you'll know it was God and not you. You'll walk through that season with a grace you couldn't have carried had He answered you earlier. You'll look back and realize that what you thought was a rejection was actually a rescue, that what you thought was being held was being preserved, and what you thought was forgotten was really being fashioned in the fire of patience. Delay matures your worship. It shifts your focus from asking God for things to knowing Him as everything. It deepens your roots so the wind of success won't blow you over. And that's what makes God so faithful. He loves you too much to let you receive what you're not ready to manage. The silence is not Him forgetting. The delay is not Him denying. It's Him working in you, around you, and beyond you. Because when God is up to something, He doesn't just move fast, He moves right. And if you stay faithful in the delay, the day will come when everything makes sense. When the tears make sense, when the shut doors make sense, when the lonely nights make sense, and when that moment arrives, you'll walk into it not just with joy, but with strength. Because delay wasn't the enemy, it was the evidence that God was doing more than you asked, in ways you never imagined. Every attack isn't random. Every storm doesn't come just to shake you. It comes because there's something on your life that the enemy sees even if you don't. The truth is, every attack is evidence of assignment. When you are called by God, when heaven has placed its hand on your life, when purpose is pulsing through your veins, hell takes notice. You don't face certain battles because you're weak. You face them because you're dangerous. There's something inside you that threatens the kingdom of darkness. There's an anointing, a destiny, a voice, a mission that the enemy knows will shift lives, break generational curses, and unlock spiritual chains, and so the warfare intensifies. The attacks aren't confirmation that you've done something wrong. They're often the proof that you're walking in the right direction. People won't always understand it. They'll see your tears and your trials and wonder why you're going through so much. But the weight of your warfare is directly connected to the weight of your calling. That anxiety that shows up at night, that depression that tries to choke your joy, that betrayal that came from someone close to your heart. Those are not signs of abandonment. Those are signs of alignment. You are aligned with something greater than what you can see. The enemy doesn't waste his fire on empty fields. He launches attacks on those who are fertile with promise. Some of the things you're battling didn't even start with you. They started generations ago. And now, because you've chosen to live differently, to pray, to believe, to break cycles, the enemy is furious. You're not just fighting for yourself, you're fighting for your bloodline. That's why the pressure feels heavy. That's why the warfare is personal. You are the one that hell knows can shift the future. You are the one who said no more to broken patterns. You are the one who stood up in the face of fear and said, God, use me. And when you do that, the target on your back increases. But don't be discouraged. The presence of the attack proves the reality of your assignment. Even Jesus wasn't exempt. The moment he was baptized, the heavens opened and the Spirit descended like a dove. But right after the affirmation came the confrontation. He was led into the wilderness and tempted by the devil. Why? Because the anointing attracts adversity. Before Jesus ever performed a miracle, the enemy tried to sabotage the mission. That's how it works. Before the breakthrough comes the battle. Before the promotion comes the pressure. Before the glory comes the grind. The enemy tries to catch you early, to wear you down before you rise up. But when you understand that the warfare is a signal, not a sentence, you stop panicking and start praising. You begin to recognize that the very areas where you're being hit the hardest are the exact places where God intends to use you the most. If your mind is under attack, maybe you're called to speak peace. If your finances are under fire, maybe you're anointed to create wealth for the kingdom. If your family is in chaos, maybe you're the generational repairer, the one who will restore order and legacy. The enemy attacks what he fears. He strikes at what carries impact. So when you feel the heat of battle, don't shrink. Stand firm, lift your head, plant your feet, because God has already declared the end from the beginning, and if he's allowed the attack, he's already prepared the victory. And here's the truth: God uses even the enemy's weapons to shape your strength. The same betrayal that broke your heart also built your boundaries. The same storm that made you cry also trained your faith. The same rejection that left you alone also drew you into deeper prayer. The attack was real, but so was the growth. You didn't just survive, you became stronger. You didn't just endure, you evolved. Because when God is up to something, he doesn't just rescue you from the fire, he refines you in it. You come out wiser, purer, clearer, bolder. The enemy tried to bury you, but God used the soil as a womb, not a grave. So don't fear the fight. Don't lose hope in the battle, and don't curse the season of pressure. Because even when the enemy is active, God is still in control. He wastes nothing, not a tear, not a trial, not a single night of struggle. He uses it all to strengthen the soldier in you. And when the dust settles, you'll realize that what was sent to break you actually built you. The attack wasn't your end, it was your awakening. The pain didn't stop your promise, it pushed you into it. You may have scars, but you also have strategy. You may have been wounded, but you also carry wisdom. And the next time you feel the enemy rising, you'll remember, I must be close to something. God must be up to something, because this fight isn't random. This fight is revelation. The enemy knows I'm carrying something. And if God allowed it, he's going to use it. There comes a time when God will shift everything around you, not to destroy you, but to expose you to what's always been inside of you. There is a moment when the season demands more than comfort, and purpose pulls harder than pain. When God is up to something, he doesn't just change your surroundings, he awakens your identity. He forces you to confront what you've settled for, what you've believed about yourself, and what you've been too afraid to become. Because some of us have been living beneath our calling, blending in when we were born to stand out, surviving when we were created to reign. That moment of divine awakening is often disguised as disappointment. Things start falling apart. People begin to walk away. Opportunities dry up. You find yourself in unfamiliar territory, wondering why everything that once worked has now stopped working. But this is not the enemy pulling you down, it's God pulling you up. He's shaking the foundations not to break your spirit, but to reveal your strength. He's allowing the disconnect to happen, so you'll stop clinging to what was and start leaning into what is and what could be. When you're truly called, God will allow life to frustrate you until you can no longer ignore your potential. You'll no longer be able to tolerate the shallow. The job that once satisfied you will feel empty. The relationships that once distracted you will now irritate you. The environment that once felt safe will suddenly feel suffocating. That's because you've outgrown it. And when God is up to something, he doesn't ask permission to grow you, he just starts the process. He stretches you. He enlarges your vision. He wakes you up in the middle of the night with dreams too big to ignore and burdens too deep to escape. But let's be honest, transformation isn't always pretty. Growth doesn't always feel good. When God begins to awaken your identity, he often starts by stripping you of the false versions of yourself, the masks, the titles, the roles you've used to fit in or keep peace. You'll begin to see that what made others comfortable was costing you your authenticity. You'll realize that you've been shrinking to avoid conflict, dimming your light to avoid judgment, pretending to be fine to avoid questions. And God says no more. When he's up to something, he calls you out, not to embarrass you, but to empower you. You can't walk in full purpose while living in partial identity. You can't carry the oil of your assignment while wearing the armor of someone else's expectations. That's why God brings you to a breaking point, not to damage you, but to demand your truth. He wants the real you, the healed you, the honest you, the bold, brave, spirit-filled, fearless version of you that He formed before the foundations of the world. And so, He shakes things loose, not because He's mad, but because He's committed. He's too invested in your future to let you stay small, too faithful to your destiny to let you remain stuck. And sometimes what He awakens in you will offend those who are comfortable with your silence. When you step into your truth, it will challenge those who benefited from your quietness. But you can't be loyal to people and disloyal to purpose. You weren't created to be liked. You were created to be light, and if your boldness bothers them, let it. If your growth intimidates them, so be it, because God is calling you higher, not louder, and that elevation often comes with separation. He begins to draw you into deeper waters, where the surface won't satisfy, where the shallow won't sustain. He invites you to wrestle with your calling, to study when no one's watching, to pray when no one understands, to serve without applause, to give when you feel empty, to believe even when you don't see results. Because He's shaping your identity in the dark before He reveals you in the light. And when you know who you are in Him, you stop begging for validation from others. You walk in rooms with clarity, you face obstacles with courage, you recover from failure with grace. Because your worth is no longer tied to who affirms you, it's anchored in who formed you. This is the hour where God is calling His people into identity. He's tearing down every lie that said you weren't enough. He's breaking every ceiling placed over you by trauma, tradition, or timidity. He's reintroducing you to yourself, not the wounded version, not the weary version, but the warrior version. The version that speaks with power, loves without fear, walks in authority, and trusts without proof. And that version has been buried too long, hidden beneath people, pleasing, covered under fear, silenced by shame. But now, God says, arise, you've been down long enough, confused long enough, afraid long enough. This is your moment. Not to chase titles or applause, but to walk in truth. Because when God is up to something, He doesn't just bless what's around you, He awakens what's within you. And when that happens, nothing around you can stay the same. The room may look the same, but you've changed. The battle may not stop, but you fight differently. The season may still stretch you, but now you walk through it with your head high and your heart steady. Because you know who you are. And more importantly, you know whose you are. There are seasons in your life when nothing makes sense, when everything that once was stable suddenly shifts, when prayers seem to echo back in silence, and when doors that looked like they were opening slam shut, and it's in those moments that we begin to question, where is God? Why is this happening? Did I miss something? But what if I told you that the confusion, the disruption, the mess, it's all part of the movement? Because when God is up to something, it often begins in chaos before it becomes clarity. He hides order inside of disorder, purpose inside of pain, and destiny inside of detours. The mess isn't a sign that God has left. It's proof that He's working. You see, God doesn't always come the way we expect. We want straight paths, simple answers, and predictable outcomes. But God moves in layers, in mystery, in moments that don't always add up at first glance. He speaks in the wilderness. He births kings in stables. He builds thrones out of broken pieces. And if we're not careful, we'll miss what He's doing because it doesn't look the way we imagined. The mess often offends our logic. It shakes our comfort. It humbles our pride. But it's right there, in the middle of the confusion, that God begins to construct something we could have never built ourselves. When your life feels like a whirlwind, when relationships are breaking, when resources are drying up, when everything familiar starts to shift, it may not be the end, it may be the evidence. The evidence that God is moving pieces into position, that He's stirring the waters, that He's closing doors to protect you from what you thought you wanted. He's dismantling your plans because He has a purpose greater than your comfort. And while you're asking Him to calm the storm, He's using the storm to wake up something in you that can't afford to stay asleep any longer. We tend to think God only moves in peace, but the truth is, He often disrupts before He delivers, before He builds, He breaks. Before He sets you in a new place, He dismantles the old structures. We see this pattern all through Scripture. Before the Israelites entered the Promised Land, they wandered. Before Joseph sat on a throne, he sat in a prison. Before Paul preached to the nations, he was blinded. There's a divine pattern where confusion precedes clarity, shaking precedes settling, and breakdowns precede breakthroughs. That's because God is more concerned with your transformation than your timeline. We cry out, "Lord, fix it," and He responds by fixing us. He doesn't just want to change our situation, He wants to change our sight. He wants us to see Him not just in the blessings, but in the brokenness. To trust Him not just when we understand, but when we don't. Faith doesn't thrive in clarity, it grows in mystery. It's in the moments you don't have the answers that you learn to lean on the one who is the answer. And in the middle of that mess, if you look closely, you'll find manna. You'll find moments of provision, glimpses of grace, whispers of direction. You may not see the full picture, but you'll get enough light to take the next step. And here's what's powerful. Sometimes the mess is God's mercy. Sometimes He allows things to fall apart so that what's fake can no longer function. He allows certain plans to fail because they were rooted in pride. He allows the chaos not to punish you, but to position you. Because as long as you're in control, He can't be. As long as you're holding onto the old, He can't release the new. So He lets the shaking come not to destroy you, but to detach you from things that were never meant to go with you into the next season. When God is up to something, He doesn't just change your location, He transforms your foundation. He deals with the hidden things, the fear you hide behind faith talk, the pride you cover with performance, the wounds you've buried under busy schedules. And sometimes the only way to reach those places is to bring everything to the surface. That's why it gets messy. Not because God is absent, but because He's digging deep. Because He's rebuilding something eternal on the inside of you that no storm can shake, no person can cancel, and no season can steal. And when the dust settles, you'll look back and realize it was all divine. Every closed door, every confusing moment, every broken plan. What felt like devastation was actually divine design. What looked like chaos was choreography. What felt like the end was the beginning of something new. You'll realize that even in your worst moments, God never left. He was in the details, in the delays, in the detours. He was writing a story too big for your understanding and too beautiful for your timeline. So don't despise the mess, don't curse the shaking, don't run from the confusion, embrace it as the birthing room of something greater. Because when God is up to something, He doesn't always announce it with clarity. Sometimes He introduces it with chaos. And if you can trust Him through the mess, you'll find out it was never a mess to Him. It was the movement of His hand making all things new.